I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm going to take you and show you something that's right up there. Here I am on a rooftop in Brooklyn, New York. That is not a painted backdrop behind me. This is a real farm up on an industrial roof. And there are roofs everywhere through cities all over the world that could go into high production just like this. This is a truly organic rooftop farm. There's only 6 to 8 inches, 150 to 200 millimeters of soil here, and it's on a concrete roof. It's not just monoculture high production, it's mixed species. There's a mixture here. There's a real diversity to hold that organics. There's clover cover crops, there's flowers, there's mixed herb, there's scented plants. It's a combination of elements to hold that organic diversity. This is the kind of thing that we need to see, and we need to encourage, and we need to support. This is the kind of thing we need to support everywhere for the benefit of people in high density areas. This can supplement our food supply. It's interesting that there are clovers growing around the edges. There's little nitrogen fixing herbaceous plants as a complement to soil fertility, even here on a rooftop. Diversity gives us that extra security. Here we've got okra and mixed lettuces looking really colourful, and more young lettuces coming up. There's picking greens, here's arugula, rocket, and nice little beds of flowers everywhere. There's a melon, I can see melons up here. So there's a real mixture of crop here. It's probably got quite an extended season. Well, you can't really be more iconically inner city than this on planet Earth. Manhattan, Brooklyn, we're up on a green roof that's growing food. And just below me is a green roof as well, but it's not growing food. There's a solar water panel, and one roof over, there are bees hives. And then there are all these roofs that aren't planted, all this space that's not utilised. This is a classic turning point in history, I think, that we need to realise what we can do, what we should do. We've got a very well-drained soil here. It's got lots of little stones in it. It's like large, gritty, almost gravelly, fine gravels. Very well drained, and it might be difficult to hold nutrient here, and there is some weed responses. I'm surprised to see the weed responses here. We really need to make sure that we're keeping the fertility up to the soil, and one of the easiest ways would be not just additions of compost and worm castings, but some liquid dressings of compost tea, biofertilizer, worm juices, and we'd go into such a fertile regime that there'd be very few weeds germinate in here. So it's definitely not a perfect system, but it's one where we can cycle weed nutrient back through and build it up to something that would have an extremely fertile soil. It's very, very well drained. Here's a portulaca germinating here, a volunteer, but it's a volunteer edible. So that's a great little addition and very high in minerals. So here's a classic hairnet root. The soils are very, very loose here. So these hairnet root plants, which are called weeds often, will volunteer to come in and just hold the surface together. It's kind of an indication I'd use to say we need slightly more solid soils, not quite so loose. The weeds are indicating to us hold this together a little bit. Tighten it up a bit. This soil needs to be a little bit more solid. It would benefit from a little bit of clay and quite a bit more organic humus. The small stone particles are quite large and it's very free draining. So we could tighten this up just a little bit by the indication of some of the weeds that are germinating here. There are no compaction weeds germinating because it'd be very difficult to actually compact this. It's probably been done on purpose, but we could just tune it up a little bit with what the plants that are volunteering, what we call weeds, they're actually showing us that, they're indicating for us. We need to be able to read these messages, always need to be able to pay attention to the messages of natural systems, natural occurrences. That way we facilitate more abundant, creative events. The length of this roof is quite remarkable. There are quite long rows, but quite sensibly they've changed crops within the row, along the row, and between the rows. There's a nice mixing of diversity. That would make it a lot more sustainable as far as inputs are concerned. There's going to be less pest problems. With good compost, good natural fertilizers, a healthy soil that we're completely in control of, we actually build a very, very stable, fertile situation here. But there is going to have to be inputs of organic nutrients because this is a heavy harvest situation. It's all about produce, 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 producing a yield continuously. So there is going to have to be some return. But of course, in a city like New York, there's all kinds of organic waste products. It's not hard to get bulk compost. In fact, there are huge composting systems. So in every city, you have exactly the same scenario where you can return nutrient to intensive food production like this, stay organic, stay diverse, and stay in a pretty natural, healthy food situation. This food would have a high nutrient density, and that's the type of food we want to produce. This is pretty impressive, but it's really just a simple beginning to all the potential possibilities we could explore with these sort of systems up on rooftops in cities. Brooklyn Grange is an iconic site. It's in an iconic position. This used to be a naval dockyard. It used to launch ships. Now it's going to launch food sustainability on rooftops across the world. That's what it's about. Understanding what is possible. And all we are doing is fast tracking natural systems. That's what permaculture does. It looks at nature and looks at the way natural systems regenerate. And if you look around the derelict, unused roofs of this city, right next door, you can see trees regenerating on roofs anyway. If there was a meltdown, if everything stopped functioning in this city, the roofs will be taken over by forests and vegetation, and nature would reclaim this back as habitat. And this roof would be one of the best. It would be one of the first to go back. We're just working with nature and the way nature wants to operate. We'll go with that system. That's the system we're backing.